right, what's going on, everybody? I'm just now learning how to use these cool little dials and stuff. So, all right, guys, welcome to another episode of Witch Doctor. Joining me today, fellow YouTuber, religious enthusiast, theologian, if you will, 21st century mind. So tell me your name, man. Tristan Gabriel, right?
That's correct.
All right, cool. So I was watching YouTube the other day, and we were looking for different channels or different anything really that just has to do with like a difference of opinion, you know. So when you look for these like religious channels or alternate religious channels, you'll find a range of people, right? So I want to talk to Tristan about like who he is, his life, learn a little bit more about him, and then find out more about 21st century mind and how he became 21st century mind. And then what we do, and hopefully we'll have some of our friends show up. If not, it doesn't matter. We're going to have tons of comments along the way. And depending on how, so like, for example, my boy Dane, he just hit us up on the brightest night, on the darkest light. I am ascending. As are we all. The dark light is upon you. So a lot of the friends that we have at our show have theology channels as well. So you might see random motivational text of some kind like pop through on the way, you know.
Yeah. Right.
But all right. So what really caught my attention with your show was I saw Myth Vision. He was a guest on your show, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or were you a guest on his show?
Both. He came on mine, I came on his, Derek.
Okay, yeah. So he's the only one I haven't met of like the handful of guys who have really good channels and stuff. So I've been trying to get his attention, and I made up a fake story about almost getting him on a live one time, but
Oh, so that wasn't real?
no.
Oh goodness.
None of them
Oh,
are.
oh
None of the
okay.
stories are real. Yeah, it's
Oh,
so
okay. That's
my
funny.
page has been, and I won't crack it open too much. Oh, hey, Mandy Moorhall. So this is one of our musicians, poets, writers, and just to sort of give you a brief, Mandy, he releases a book, I think every 90 days or every 4 months.
Oh, okay.
And people can submit their stories to him, and then he'll put them into the book so they can get themselves published, if you will.
Tight.
So anyway, let's wipe it all clean. For those that know him, forget everything you know about 21st century mind. We're going to start it all over. So Tristan, tell me where were you born?
I was born in Stockton, California.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Tell
On the
us,
west side.
what was life like growing up? Were you from, you know, a lower class? Were you from middle class? Was it a tough neighborhood? What's Stockton like?
Yeah, Stockton, it's one of the high crime cities in California. I was born and raised in the church. My grandfather was a pastor. My father was on a staff of a mega church. So I grew up in a mega church. We had a Bible college, we had a radio station, we had a facility that, hosts thousands. I mean, you're looking at 2 to 3,000 every Sunday morning.
Mega church.
It was a mega church, yeah. And
Okay.
so I was born and raised in that culture. But I've had my ins and outs, especially as a teenager, adolescence.
Yeah.
I wasn't always, quote, living for God or in church. But it wasn't until I was 19 after high school was when I gave my whole life over to Christianity, went to Bible college, graduated, went to seminary, have a master's degree. I was a full-time minister in the mega church where I grew up in. And I've been all throughout the States. I work with pastors throughout the States. You were going to say something?
I had no idea your education level on this topic. Wow, you're gonna be teaching me shit. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Oh my God. Cool.
I mean, it's just a degree in theology. I mean, it's like there's so many different denominations who have their own dogmas, right, and their own bias. But yeah, but when you're a minister, especially if you're going to be teaching, instructing like lower classmen, because we had a Bible college, fully accredited Bible college, you need to have a master's degree to teach the undergrad. But I've been all throughout the states. I work for pastors in Pennsylvania, in Portland, Oregon. We used to promote our Bible college during the summer, preaching in hundreds of churches. And so, yeah, man, I was a full-time minister, but no longer. It was, I think, as a matter of fact, you made a video clip, or you made a highlight on something that I was commenting on. I was criticizing a scholar named Don Preston. It was about the dancing in the streets. Yes.
Yeah, the video and the shorts, it didn't turn out like I wanted it to, because we didn't criticize anything about your channel. We were
Okay.
looking at other stuff in the text. And then the AI does its own making shorts, and it's never like how I want them. My video making skills aren't quite there yet. So I was like, let me take it down. I'm gonna redo it. My channel's
Oh,
so
okay.
new. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're
I
still
get it.
sort of experimenting with its look, with its feel. It's definitely a comedy page, but if you're
Yeah.
not, if you don't know my personality, it might not be that obvious. So we're on the brink of having to go more satire or less satire, and I kind of want
Oh,
to go
okay.
more satire, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm trying to come at this from a very in the middle perspective, But we'll
Gotcha.
talk more about that later. So you got your master's in theology, and that was so that you could teach seminary.
Yeah. Well, it
Okay,
was not seminary. If you're going to teach at seminary, you need a PhD, but it was for lower classmen because we had a Bible college to get like your undergrad degrees. Yeah.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
it was just something to have. But the reason why I brought up the short that you had made was because I just had a formal debate with on Myth Vision with the leading voice of a doctrine called full preterism, which when I was a Christian, I got into full preterism, and it was
Okay.
by that doctrine that started leading me out of the faith. Which that doctrine of full preterism, covenant eschatology, has done with many, including Derek Lambert. And that's how Derek Lambert and I connected because we knew who
Oh,
Don K. Preston was. Yeah, we were kind of cut from the same cloth when it came to this doctrine. So he reached out to me and shot me a DM, and he liked some of my critiques on Don Preston's theology, in so much that it wasn't just him, but it was a lot in the preterist community.
Preston.
And I got Don to say something that was pretty embarrassing, and that's the clip that you put on your channel about the
Right.
dancing in the streets. Essentially, what he was saying is, and I don't have to get into the details of it, but he said something that no historian or a commentator or a Christian scholar has ever said before publicly. He believes that Christ already returned in 70 AD, and he believes that the resurrection of the living and the dead took place in 70 AD. And so when I asked how you're going to say something, I don't know if I said,
No, I've never heard this. I'm new at this. It's my
oh, okay,
first year
okay.
into really diving into it. I used to pretend I knew more when I was an atheist, but that a seventh
Oh,
grader
okay.
in black clothing is not really educated. So,
No,
okay,
no. Well,
so
well,
that's the
that's
concept for preterists or for
well,
Don.
yeah, the full preterist. You're still an atheist?
No,
Are you still an atheist?
no, no, no.
No. Oh, I thought you said you were an atheist. I'm sorry, maybe I
I
misheard you.
was
Oh,
for
okay,
until I was 33, and I'm 38 now.
okay.
Yeah, so I used to be, and I'll tell you a little bit about that too. So
Cool. That's interesting because I get mislabeled as being an atheist. I'm actually agnostic. I'm more of like a skeptic, agnostic. I do believe that there could be like a mind out there, maybe something out there. But I'm more of like an anti-theist, if anything. Like I don't believe that any of the religions have it correct. So that's my take on
okay, yeah, I depending on what kind of mood I'm in, the way that
it.
I attack that topic, I could probably sound like the most caring and most open-minded guy in the world. And then other times when the demon takes a hold of me and I want to have a case of the ass with someone who I think I might be smarter than, which isn't a lot of people on the planet. So if I find the opportunity, sometimes I can't help myself that asking hard questions that can piss people off. And I'm like, man, I don't need to do that. I don't need to
Well,
do it too much. Not to
it's
people in
funny.
real life. Like
Yeah,
YouTube's one
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, it's
I'm not.
funny you say that about asking questions because that question that I got, which the clip that you put on your channel, was that this man, Don Preston, this leading scholar who debated Richard Carrier, he's one of the leading atheists in the world. He just had a formal debate. In that debate, I asked a super chat question, which pretty much landed the debate that I had with him. And I said, well, then how did the saints, the Christians in 70 AD, how did they experience the return of Christ? How did they experience the resurrection of the living and the dead? And what was their response when this took place? And pretty much what he had stated was that when the Roman soldiers besieged Jerusalem, which is a historical event, it was a travesty. I mean, you're looking at a million people were being slaughtered for about 5 months. And he had stated that during this time, that is what the return of Christ is. That's the mental image of the resurrection, that when that took place, that was the fulfillment of this. It sounds crazy, right? So then my question that I had was, well, then how did they respond? What was their experience, those that were alive and they saw this? He goes, well, they were vindicated and they were dancing in the streets and they were dancing in the houses, crying tears of joy. And you go, so wait, when people are being slaughtered for 5 months in this Holocaust event, potentially their friends and their family members,
Right.
you mean to tell me that they're just going to be celebrating, doing the cha-cha, doing the tango, doing the mambo during this time? So now you have like these psychopathic Christians. I mean, just imagine, like,
Yeah.
so here are people being slaughtered, right? They're getting their
Mhm.
arms cut off. Women were cooking their children, according to Josephus and historians, that they were
Yes.
being starved to death, right? So they're eating their children, performing cannibalism, potentially the friends and the family members of the Christians. And the Christians
Yes.
are watching this and they're just dancing. It's like, this is insane to think about. Like,
Oh, man.
nobody has ever said this statement. And where's the history to verify that the Christians all around the world were dancing
Dancing in the
during the
streets.
besiegement of Jerusalem? You see how ridiculous this sounds.
Yeah. I
And so
thought of that
that's,
song
yeah.
by Mick Jagger immediately.
Yeah, yeah, that I put that on my clip, right? Yeah.
That Haley Osmond doing the drums.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
is that where that comes from? And then I'm kind of
yeah.
looking up at work and stuff, like trying to see, did they say they were dancing in the street? So one of the biggest issues you had with that statement was, it's not in the text.
Yeah, but it's just absurd to think about, because he's trying to say that Christianity has been wrong and that Jesus is not going to return in his body. See, he says Jesus is not going to return in his body, and they were never expecting to see Christ in his body return in some sort of transformed, glorified body to rapture them. You know, the rapture
Right.
is a big doctrine, right?
Right.
So
The
he says the
revelation.
rapture, right? The rapture is wrong. I go, okay, so then what should we be thinking about? Dancing in the streets when their friends and their family members, potentially their mother, their father, their wife, is being slaughtered. What are you doing in response to that? Instead of weeping and crying, you're over here, dancing. And this is just insane to think about. And so that's what landed me the debate. Many people, even his own full preterist brethren, denied those statements and say, no, we do not accept those statements. What I did in our debate, I compared it to 9/11. I was like, look, when 9/11 took place, the news recorded there was a small sect of Muslims that were rejoicing and they were dancing. So you mean to say that that's what the Christians were doing when their friends and their family members were being slaughtered for 5 months? That
Oh,
is impossible, right? It's impossible. And not only that, where does it state that in the Bible? And when he had made these statements, even Richard Carrier said the Bible never states that. Like, nobody has ever read that into the text. So, and I'm the one who got him to fall on his own sword by doing that. And so that question, that critique is what landed me that debate with him
okay.
on this Vision podcast. Yeah, because he needed to clarify what he meant. And he pretty much also affirmed when I asked him, okay, if it was your wife that was in the city gates, how would you respond? Would you be crying and weeping? Would you try to rescue her, or would you be dancing? Which one? He said that he would still be rejoicing and he would still have hope. He didn't want to really clear. See that it's a
Yes.
terrible, it's a terrible statement to say. And yeah, so that was part of the clip, but it was that teaching of full preterism that essentially led me out to
Yeah.
Christianity, because even if we granted, let's say that Christ did return, that means that Christianity ended in 70 AD. Essentially is what it leads to if you're
Right.
going to be a full
At least
preterist.
the story of it
The
is
story
over.
of being over, it's done
You
and
think,
over with, right?
and I don't know how long this theory, because when I look into alternate theories, I obviously know the the hallmark um, story of Christianity, right? Just like I know the hallmark story of 9/11, or let's say the moon landing. That's a good one that's not really related to anything too tear jerking, right?
Yeah.
The moon landing, yeah, of course, if I even pretend for 5 seconds that Stanley Kubrick had something to do with the filming of the decoy video for the first moon landing, if I even say it, people are like, you're a moron. You're a
Yeah.
moron. You could never, you what a loser. And
Yeah.
so I obviously know that a lot of the theories that exist are, besides that, we could say the concept of the religion is absolutely ridiculous as well, just altogether. A Bible believing, divine Jesus believing person pointing the finger at someone who just believes a different theory about maybe a personality trait about Jesus, but still thinking that they might have even lived.
Yeah.
They kind of point the finger a little bit because we talk about some alternate theories. How long has that so that's Don Preston's, that's his theory that he didn't get from anywhere else, did he?
That Christ returned already?
Say
Yeah,
again?
no, that you mean that Christ returned already, that concept that
Right.
Jesus already, yeah, well, he didn't make it up. It's
Okay.
actually been, like, thought about, like, in the 1800s. It's just a very small sect
Got it.
that obviously Christianity rejects, right? Like
Right.
the
Right.
large majority. But he was able to take this controversial view and bring it on a world class level. He debated Michael Brown, who was a world class evangelical scholar, like a high A profile type Christian
Right.
scholar. So he was able to bring that doctrine up to that level, to Richard Carrier, one of the most famous atheists in the world.
Yeah.
So, we got to give him some respects for that. Like, yeah.
He just did that article debunking a guy that we're going to talk a little bit about. And I don't want to steal the guy's thumbnails and try to use him to make my channel bigger, but there is a channel out there that a lot of people watch on my show. And I do have Christians that watch, and I have other non-denominational deists and agnostics with their own perception of what they think in regards to each religion. Some they are here as well watching the show. But my show, when it first got started, would have reminded you a lot of a guy's channel named Lady Babylon. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if you've heard of this channel before.
No.
So when I grew up, my mom is an anthropologist or an anthropology major, right? So she had talked and talked about all kinds of stuff that I'd never paid attention to. The Gnostic Gospels by Elaine
Mm,
Pagels. And then another one that was real popular in my house was Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which is the Dan Brown theory of
okay.
Jesus living after the crucifixion, moving to what they say in the book, France, and there being a lineage that's sort of been covered up. It's a cool concept for sure. The Knights Templar, they follow something sort of like that when it comes to the after the crucifixion. The Knights Templar, if I'm not mistaken, Tim Hogan talks about on Danny Jones that they have a concept of him living afterwards, and that he was no more divine than me and you, but it was the fact that he was the one who was going to actually show people how to achieve this divineness, if you will.
Mm.
And you know, aligned with all of that is a concept that there may have been ethnobotanical apothecary type knowledge in these rebel outskirted Jew rabbis that were still doing things the old school way, the purist types that are like John the Baptist with the cheetah cloth and the leather
Yeah.
belt, living like a bunch of barbarians in the woods, things like that. So the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail, this is from 1982. This was in our house and a topic of discussion that eventually my mom even asked my grandparents about, and a couple of Southern Baptist people, they're just laughing at the concept. But this Lady Babylon channel that I've got some of these alternate theories from, I would look more into. But I'll save a little bit more for that. So after seminary school, you were still a Christian.
Yeah.
So what happened? It wasn't the Don Preston stuff that made you first raise the eyebrow at the religion, or what do you believe now? From what changed?
Yeah, well, it pretty much was that teaching. I
Oh,
was
that's it.
always
Okay.
well, I was always into, philosophy and science even when I was a Christian. I enjoyed listening to Christopher Hitchens, Bertrand Russell, atheistic literature. Because as a Christian, you're supposed
It
to
just
be
was
able to respond to this, right? You're supposed to be able to defend your faith. So I always felt it that it was very interesting, and I thought it was suitable, to at least try to have some sort of warranted answer for these skeptics. But the doctrine of full preterism, pretty much what it does is it pretty much answers the question, well, it's been 2,000 years since Christ was supposed to return. And he had stated that he was going to return in the lifetime of the first century, the audience that's within the New Testament. And so that's what full preterism teaches. They adhere to the skeptics like Bertrand Russell, when Bertrand Russell said that Christ was a failed prophet because everybody expected Christ to return in their lifetime, but he didn't. So therefore, he failed them. So therefore, the New Testament is a failed prophecy, and that's what I hold on to right now. By the way, I just believe that the New Testament is it's mythological literature. There's some historical implications in there. Like you can say, yes, there was a man named Jesus. Maybe he was crucified, but I don't believe in any of the miraculous. I do believe that was embellished over time. So that would include his virgin birth. That would include, his resurrection, and of course his return, which is something that Myth Vision Podcast has done a phenomenal job, elucidating this and bringing out the details. I mean, that's how Derek and I connected. So it's been about maybe like 5 years since my deconversion because I saw the errors within full preterism, because full preterism is trying to save the Savior from being a failed prophet. Like, he didn't come. It's been 2,000 years. So what Don Preston has to do is say, well, he did come. He did keep his word. You see, he is a man of God. He is a true prophet. So that's why it's been gaining such popularity, even within Christianity. The
Is it?
preterist worldview. Oh yeah, the preterist worldview. Because when you look at all of the time statements in the New Testament, like he was going to come soon, he was going to come quickly. It'll say that the end of all
Yeah.
things is drawn near. Right? Jesus said, "This generation will not pass away until all of these things are fulfilled." Even C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest apologists for Christianity, he pretty much acknowledged it in his mind that, hey, I could see where somebody could say this is an embarrassing verse. And he pretty much stated it's the most embarrassing verse in all the Bible. He said it in one of his rhetoric compositions. I don't know exactly where, but many have said, listen, this has been 2,000 years too long. Everybody intended for him to return, or at least he made it seem that way. And it's just been 2,000 years too long. So it's a failed prophecy,
Right.
in my worldview right now. So that, and not only that, but the existence of evil is another one. If I were to hang my hat on one of them, it would be the existence of evil. That's one that I just cannot side with, theism.
Yeah, and that is a good point. And that's back when I was having the seventh grade arguments with people, if you will. That was one of the things I used to say that would kind of get their eyebrows to raise when I wanted to disturb their peace a little bit. Is I would say something along the lines of, "If God was so great, why would there even be a hell? He make you this way, you show up, you try to do good or whatever. It's like, huh, down to the pits of hell with you now forever. By the way, for fucking ever.
Forever.
That's
Yeah.
it's too much fear." And I
Yeah.
think when I was younger, whether I believed it wasn't true or not, I don't think I actually did. I did go to church because it was a place to go and hang out with people and girls and stuff. And so me and my friend Trevor, my dad would pick up my boy Trevor. We would drive, to Doctors Creek Baptist Church, and they have youth night. And this guy playing guitar, then talks about
Yeah.
the Bible for a little bit. And I thought that was, harmless, but it starts so young that in the beginning of this book that I wrote called Witch Doctor Christianity, that's now the name sort of changing to The Quest for the Burning Purple. It's a long story. It's looking for a drug that's supposed to be purple that they were supposedly putting in their ass. It's too much to describe in 5 seconds. But
That's
it all
hilarious.
came from that Lady Babylon channel, right? So we were like, let's go and try to investigate this because I'll never back away from an alternate theory. And along the way, I did find some cool stuff. But I was still an atheist though when I was younger, and then I went to a different church in high school, an Episcopal church, and I would ask the youth minister there, who looked like Johnny Depp, and he talked like him and everything. He played guitar and had the band, and I would talk to him and ask him the hard questions. Not really the dude living in the fish type questions, but just the really hard ones about knowing before, like sacrificing so much of the mental freedom, I guess, to it. Something about it. I don't know what it was. It was just something about the religion. I couldn't ever officially become the religion. Uh,
Okay.
Probably because I cared too much about not conforming to a sect of anything. I don't know. Or immature to a degree, but then also not immature, because it takes a mature mind sometimes to overlook the
Yeah.
the fairy tale or whatever, sort of. And
Yeah.
I've had some friends, ironically, a PhD in theology, who was in my army unit a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
His name is Dan Brown, just like the author of the Da Vinci Code. So
Oh,
whenever,
really? That's funny.
yeah, so when he was in college and he would go give a speech after he got his PhD, they'd always have to say, "Not the author of the Da Vinci Code," and it would just kill his motivation. Before
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
I'm over exaggerating the story some, but all right. So you slowly or quickly, however, there's always that revelation that people have when they, was it a slow exit, or was it kind of just like, wait a minute, I don't even agree with this. I mean, how did you,
Yeah, so like the process of deconversion, like was there like a certain day? Yeah, there, as a matter of fact, I do remember there was a day I was in my car where I mean, it's a process, right? It could take like months where you start to see, like, hey, this is mythology. When I saw that view of the New Testament, yeah, like I brought tears in my eyes, because I gave my whole life to this, you know what I mean? And I remember being in my car, and I guess it's kind of like the same thing as like a new birth experience, right? Like you're starting to see truth like you've never seen it before in its most practical sense, and it's virtuous. So it was more of like a virtuous realization. And so I'm like, man, I'm just glad that I caught this now, rather than giving more of my life over to this. Especially those of upper age, when they deconvert, I commend them, because then they go, they gave all of their youth over to religion, and now they believe that it's false, and they become atheists, or skeptics, agnostics, and I commend them for that. But I do remember having that moment where I did cry. It was just tears falling down my face. And I was like, hey, like this is a new chapter for me. I am no longer believing in this, and I'm just being honest. I can't believe in this any longer, and I
right?
can't side with it. Right. So it's like yeah, it's virtuous. It was great. I'll never forget it. And then after that, you're just pretty much the same person. Like, like if you're trash as a Christian, it's because you're trash in who you are. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so I do believe like in
very
morals
true.
and ethics. Yeah, like morals and ethics, it is a product of human psychology, of human anthropology. And so, a good dude is just going to be a good dude, whether he's in the church or not.
It's very
And so I haven't changed much. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's a few things I like to do, some, that could be deemed sinful, but at the end of the day, like I'm still the same person. So, but the grass is greener on this side. Once you do deconvert,
I
that
was
that
going
I
to
could say.
say, the Mormons, didn't they have a failed prophecy as well that has
Mhm.
always made it difficult? I don't know the details. I'm having a Mormon
They
come
do,
on.
they do, they do, they do. Yeah,
Tell us more
Joseph. Yeah.
about that concept.
Joseph Smith was pretty much saying that the return of Christ was going to happen in their generation. They invested a lot of money making a lot of buildings, and then it didn't happen. And people right now, especially now that YouTube is up, people are now spreading this failed prophecy. Also within Islam, Muhammad made a prediction about the end of the world being 100 years from his time period, right? And
Right,
look, failed prophet. Now Jesus and all the apostles, it's the same concept. They said it was going to happen. His return was going to happen in their lifetime. It didn't happen. So what happens is that Christians have to do special pleading. So they pretty much have to say, well, it's different because it's God and he can never lie, and it's God language. 2,000 years is nothing to him, yada yada.
right.
But yeah, I could even see
What a,
somebody in the chat here. I don't know who it was. I think you put it up. Dean Bean Cooter.
yeah,
He said
Dane.
the Bible says he did come. They saw him on the road to Emmaus. He did return, per the Bible. I don't know if he's a full preterist, but that sounds like a full preterist statement right there. The Bible says he
Oh,
did come.
Deacon
Yeah,
Bean Cooter. I don't know if he might just be. I have people that are satirists that
see,
watch.
that sounds like a full preterist statement right there. He
He
did
did
return,
return
per the
per
Bible.
the Bible.
Right, right. So when someone's a full preterist, they're trying to defend that Christ did return. And it's like, how? Well, he returned invisibly, like in the invisible realm, like in a spiritual invisible realm. So then you go, well, then how did they experience that? Did they like fall into a trance? Did they all like just tap into the unseen realm and see Christ in some sort of body? So it gets very Gnostic, you know what I mean? So anybody who starts saying that, like, oh, Christ already did return, that's a full preterist. And so it's pretty much
I've
it's
never
a
known.
small teaching, but it's growing. It's growing in popularity.
So you believe in God though?
I believe there could be like a mind out there, or minds, maybe a simulation. I like to, believe that there is some sort of providence and narrative that's in my life, that maybe when I die, I can go somewhere. Like there's some
Yeah.
sort of purpose beyond me. But, you know, that's just, I still am skeptical. And, if this is all that we have, and we're just, we go back to non-existent when we die, then I'm fine with that too. You got to just, you have to adapt and just, live life.
Have you ever seen God? Like, have you ever? Well, let me ask you this in a way. So, the religion that I jokingly created is called Witch Doctor Christianity, right? So the whole concept here is I grew up as a white dude from the suburbs, a military family. Moved every 3 years, lived in Panama during the war in 1989. My
Oh,
whole
wow.
family went there through it, yeah. And then when I was 18 or so, 17, joined the army, went to Iraq, had a pretty awesome experience over there with a bunch of Christians. Just small details. It was like we were getting really, really heavily indirect fire.
Mm.
Boom, boom, mortars hitting us, right? We're 2 weeks from going home. I'd already been blown up about 100 times. I've been, or mortared hundreds of times, blown up. I've been, all the things. I was just a gunner on a truck. That was pretty much all I did over there. Very easy for a 19, 20-year-old dude. And this one night, it was really bad. They were direct hitting our compound, our
Oh,
building in the compound. And we had never had mortar attacks get so bad for so long, for so many hours. But there was a sandstorm. They couldn't get helicopters off the ground. QRF couldn't see anything. I mean, the towers couldn't even see where these guys were. Dropping boom, 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 boom. Now, I'm an atheist the whole time.
mm.
And being deployed as an atheist can be kind of, a lot of guys won't even join the military, or they'll join the military because they want to put themselves at the highest risk of not being here from going to war, if that makes sense.
Mm.
But every time that you're about to go out the wire, in any deployment, everybody does a big prayer huddle, and all the atheists are standing back with their arms crossed, just kind of making eye contact with all the other atheists that are not in the group huddle, and you're about to go out the wire and get blown up, So a lot of people, I think there's a little bit of pressure. And this one night, I was like, holy shit, we're gonna die. Like they were very, very, very good hits, and it was tearing holes in our Humvees. The
Wow.
way that they had improvised these mortars had like nuts and bolts strapped to it,
Mm.
because we kept finding like this debris, this excess debris with all the explosions that were happening. Luckily, we didn't go where we were gonna go, because we were gonna go out to our truck and move it and stuff, but it freaking cratered my freaking Humvee out the ground. I don't know. It was a really, really shitty night, and it was probably a little psychologically. It probably was a little bit more magnified because I was so close from going home that it was like, God, dog, let me just get through this night. Nothing can be worse than this. And all the Christians, when we got all the guys out from underneath ceiling tiles and stuff, we had everybody in one room, and they were all shoulder to shoulder, and we're on the ground pretty much just waiting to die. And
Wow.
they start praying, and then you're like,
Wow.
oh God, you're trying not to freaking cry and stuff, because they're like, it'll get you in that, it'll do it to you. But even staring death in the face in this particular situation where I was pinned down, I still didn't convert. I still didn't do it. I remember saying things to the effect of like, God, I don't even think you're real, but if you are, let me fucking live through this so I can see my mom.
Yeah.
But who wouldn't say that,
Right, right.
And death is so scary because of the way it happens when it's not natural.
Yeah.
When death isn't a natural thing, when you're old and you've already forgotten who you are every day, waking up and you just go one day, well, that's awesome. But then there's the other half of how people go, and obviously
Yeah.
anything gruesome, anything a little more aggressive like that, even though we've been doing it for thousands of years, it is a little bit scarier, for sure.
Yeah.
So I still didn't convert. And then, I had a funny situation sort of happen. When my granddad died, I was in an extremely like emotional state of mind. I'd been competing in bodybuilding for like 6 years. And after being on all those drugs for so many years, like your brain doesn't work right. You're walking around at like 7% body fat, and it's so dumb. It's such a Chad thing to do. But, it made it to where I was a little bit more desperate. And obviously PTSD and all this stuff from, I guess, being deployed and maybe even growing up in a war zone too might have had a little something to do with it. It wasn't like the war lasted forever, but they were some of my first memories, a couple of months of gunshots, helicopters, pretty close to the house, living in a water heater closet with a mattress over our heads, while
Oh,
my dad
shit.
was out fighting the war. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Panama was obviously awesome. But my mother, being an anthropology major, living in Panama and stuff, we were always a really big fan of like the shaman type religions or the shaman type ways of thinking about stuff. And so here I am, after being a loser and needing a change. I take this job doing security for one of the presidents of the United States.
Wow.
And when he was running in 2020 for
Oh,
re-election,
okay. Oh, okay.
which he lost. And as security dudes and as army guys, typically we're very green politically or neutral,
Mm.
because we'll work it's like John Wick, you'll work, you are the suit for the client. It doesn't matter who the client is. You're just assigned to the client. Could be a blue senator, could be a red senator. But after the year on the road with that campaign, I wound up in DC running the whole security for one of the party's national committee buildings in DC.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was the RNC, is the Republicans. And so I was running their whole security stuff, and still an atheist. I kind of was playing around with Christianity, though. My granddad died, and I was, like I was saying, something was really vulnerable in my brain. And I thought I put a bunch of pictures in an envelope with a letter from me to my granddad, because I only saw him so much when I was an adult that I felt bad and guilty. And sort of in my own way, I created a funeral tradition where if you want to put something in the casket, that's what we've done for thousands of years. So I put this letter in the casket with these little Polaroids, and it had like, some pictures of people that aren't even really in my life right now, which later on, I kind of realized that I didn't want to, how do you say, fully commit to it, because I thought to myself, there's a chance I could have maybe just not remembered not putting them in the envelope. But I thought I had these pictures in an envelope, put it in my dead granddad's casket. We bury him. A couple of days later, I'm at work. I'm a loser at the gym. And I reach in my bag and I pull out the pictures. And it kind of shocked me, because I was like, what the fuck are these doing in my bag? I put these in an envelope that's 6 feet in the ground.
Yeah.
But they're here now. And a few days later, I busted the chick cheating, right? So in my brain, my brain wanted to believe that something kind of amazing happened here. And somehow the pictures never made it into that envelope, never made it into the ground. And maybe it was like my granddad sort of trying to forewarn me that this isn't a good idea, or something like that, right? So very silly. But like I said, when you're strung out on tren and testosterone for a little while, you end up losing your mind a little bit, or just even being so lean for so long, it can just make you really. That's why they always say bodybuilders are so dumb. It's like, yeah, because they made themselves that way. But so it wasn't until I was doing the security and I was in DC, and here I am running the whole freaking thing for the RNC. Like, I can't even believe I'm doing this, And my PTSD or whatever, my personality, it's still shit. And so one of my guys, and I promised myself I'd never say his name. He walks in one day and he had heard me talking about different ways to deal with PTSD. And he had some experience in that same realm of anthropology that I was so interested in. He had some entheogens, things that my mom talked about growing up that I had never done, and she didn't never do around us, at least because we were a military family. So you can't have a life like that, So I did, a friend of mine brought a solo cup in, like a red Dixie cup of mushrooms, and sat them on the computer in front of me, or right in front of my face or whatever. And he goes, okay, you've been talking about doing this. You're going to go home. You're going to do this. I was like, okay, yes, sir. Even though I was his boss. And I had been asking about it. I had really heard a lot about ayahuasca helping guys with PTSD. I'd heard about psilocybin helping guys with PTSD. Now my wife's getting her master's degree in it.
Nice.
Yeah, we want to have a thing to help veterans, like a clinic
awesome.
where they can be part of the research study and legally. That way they can have a free mind about it, because sometimes it's the legality that makes it not something people would try. And war veterans, I'll be honest, some guys are real dangerous, and they just want to have, or they have the capability of, being dangerous, if you will. And and I've known plenty of friends that have had anger issues and stuff, that they really just wanted to escape that prison of not feeling like they did what they wanted to or something. I don't know. So I go home and I think of I look up online what to do when you're doing your first mushroom trip, So I'm like, let's do it. I'm excited now. I'm like, this has been a lifetime of hearing about this stuff, and I always stayed away from cannabis and everything else when I was younger too, just because of the military nature of our family. So I was excited for this, I had been through a lot, 3 or 4 books worth of bullshit. And I look up, what to do. Lemon juice, crush them up, put them in that, and then had a movie picked out, had some food ready, and ate them, watched the movie, and pretty awesome. Very life-changing. It felt like 10 years of therapy in one session. And I was like, holy shit. But I wasn't not an atheist yet. Something didn't happen yet that I needed to see, I guess, or something. Or at least was still willing to believe in if it would show itself. If God showed up, if I could find or had that DMT type of experience,
Yeah.
you could just see it with my own eyes and see how it felt. Maybe I could believe in something bigger than that. I mean, after all, I got out of the army because I was an atheist, because I was like, if I deploy again, I'm going to die. So I'm just like, it's hard to walk into that shit when you're not the one making the money off the war, So it's like,
Sure.
So I did the 6 years, did one tour, and got out and whatever. But it was like experience. Well, let me just tell you, after that experience, every day off I would do either micro or heroic doses of mushrooms. I was spending my money on this shit, like big time. I was, hitting the guys up every week. In DC, there's a few channels like Instagram that because it's decriminalized, they just sell it through Instagram, and they'll put you into a WhatsApp convo, and they'll just bring it to you at work, because no one's going to do anything, Now, even though I am an armed security guy for the Republican National fucking Committee, I did not give a shit. I was like, I don't care. I want to know. I don't care what they think. I was like, this is unbecoming of some Republican, or something like that. But
That's funny.
I was like, fuck that. And then it was like time number 3. This was an experience where I was seeing pyramids with eyeballs on them and stuff. I was in my bathroom and I did the Terrence McKenna special, where I pure darkness, put a little space heater on, turned my shower on to kind of do a sensory deprivation sort of feeling thing. Total darkness. 5 or 6 grams of penis envy mushrooms. And that's when I saw the snake lady.
Wow.
The snake came forward and kind of got in my face some. And I don't know what happened, but I started becoming more confident in that realm, in the space and stuff, being able to navigate through it a little bit better. And you know, I was like getting in the snake's face and stuff. I was looking for demons so I could laugh at him and like, you know, beat the shit out of him and show you I'm not scared of you, motherfucker. And I was like,
Right.
this has to be the realm that they're talking about when the Bibles and the. I was like, this has to be where the Greek stuff, the old Sumerian stuff. I said it has to be from feelings like this because I feel like I'm full of the Holy freaking Spirit right now. All this loving energy is just like soaked into me. And then she showed herself, but it wasn't a guy, it was a girl. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, it was like an African lady.
Oh,
I
okay.
think my brain, being an anthropology kid, thought that if anything was going to represent God, it was going to be something that births stuff. And the
Gotcha.
only like male things that birth stuff is like a seahorse, you know. So unless it was going to look like a seahorse, in my brain it was going to be female. But because it was female, it became sort of a counterpart of me. So I felt like in this moment, oh shit, you're the spiritual extension of me that has me tapped into the matrix when I go to bed at night or when I peek into it with these entheogens. Extreme feelings of deja vu took over my whole brain. And I
Mm.
was like, I've been here before, whether it was in a lifetime before or before I was born. Is this the place I was at before I was born? Because that's what it
Mm.
felt like all of a sudden. Now, this could easily be my brain telling me all this, right?
Yeah. Right.
And she was pissed. God was so mad. And but she was cool. She was being cool with me. It was more like she was pissed off because everybody has their counterpartner God, and they all look different to everyone in this particular example that I'm creating. And so, like a female might see a male, you know, if that's the energy they need to see, kind of like the movie Contact when Jodie Foster meets the aliens, but it looks like a picture on her fridge where she's at, and it's her dad that comes and talks to her because the aliens made her brain show her something that would make her calm down and not shit their pants as they're talking to an alien. Sounds nuts, totally get it. But I was like, oh, okay, so my brain made God look like a female because that's what I wanted her to look like, I guess. I don't know. But from that moment forward, I no longer was really an atheist. I was like, okay, hold on. This is interesting. Only because people sometimes will see the same deities from
Yeah.
when someone else will take the mushrooms and they'll be like, hey, I saw that snake lady. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I've kind of conducted my own bullshit research in that regard too. Just, you know, doing them a bunch to see what I thought about stuff. Now, I will say the way that I feel now is a little different than right after having those experiences. It's been a few years now. And, you know, like I said earlier, depending on what kind of mood I'm in, the way I answer the question, like, is God real, might sound a little different. But I was
Yeah.
going to ask you, if it's not too much, have you
No.
heard anything about entheogens and like people seeing gods on them, or have you ever
Yeah.
explored that or watched videos?
Yeah, I came from like the charismatic movement in, Christianity. So all these religious experiences or all these, like paranormal activities, all that, you know what I mean? It's interesting. I do believe that it's, we can say that it's a product of the brain, like the brain is, creating this reality in our minds, just like what it's doing now with the external world. But who's to say, you know what I mean? That there's some sort of, transcendent world out there, that there is some sort of mind out there. So, I that's why I'm just a skeptic of it all. But I do remain, agnostic. I haven't gotten to the atheist route, even though I do entertain the thought very often.
So you're sort of like a deist, where you think that there's, and I could be defining this wrong, but from what I've heard, deists believe that there's a God type of energy thing out there. There's a God, but it's not like it's a guy or an entity that looks any kind of. It would be sort of an invisible entity, even in the other realm. But it's non-gendered, androgynous. Obviously, not even androgynous. No, there's no physicality to it at all,
Yeah,
and it's
incorporeal.
they look at it more like, and maybe you can correct me, but they look at it more like there's the like almost like the law of nature ends up being what they say God is. So it's like the
Yeah.
same way that you can put a seed in the ground and it does its thing, and it,
Yeah.
as long as all the components are there,
Yeah.
that itself is God.
Yeah.
And that whole process of that happening, all the things you don't see with your eyes is God, and
Yeah.
everything you see with your eyes is not God. So
Yeah.
um, but shoot. So what? So the channel though, you become the 21st century mind, and when did you decide? Okay, I'm going to do a YouTube channel, and how do you find content every week? To like, what do you look for when you're going to make a new video, so that we can know what kind of channel this is now that everyone's going to go type it in?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's pretty much an open podcast channel. I mean, it focuses a lot on some of these like full preterist type views, because there's a Facebook group that I'm one of the admins of, and they come in weekly, and so there's some good profile people in the group. So my channel was dedicated for those full preterists. But also, I am a skeptic, so like I make some clips on, like existence of evil and stuff like that. But mostly it's like for live discussions, just like what we're having now. I've had some scholars come on and have formal debates. And so it's pretty much just an open live discussion. I mean, it could be about culture, it could be about religion, it could be about science, anything in the 21st century. So I often say, like, if you're in the 21st century and you have a mind, you're more than welcome to, utilize my platform. So I like to, gear it towards, debates and, having live discussions and, just having open freestyle, sharing your thoughts and ideas. But it is like religious based or anti-religious based so far. And I saw that Derek Lambert chimed in earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
He said
so
something about
yeah,
Tristan is one of our highest paying customers.
yeah, I think he said something about like a brothel. I think because you guys have a brothel or something like that, and I'm one of the highest.
Yeah, here we
That's pretty.
go. Witch doctor, Gnostic and myself secretly run a strip club, a brothel. Just wanted to
Yeah,
be less in a safe space.
yeah,
See, I'm glad Derek's been able to pick up on my sense of humor, because me showing him the goat on a missed live stream is definitely made up. But what's funny is that even like the story I made up about Gnostic informant, how I met him, I still have friends that aren't exactly sure if I'm full of shit or not. So they're like,
that's funny.
"Oh, I didn't know you met him." I'm like, "No, I didn't." And
That's
then of
funny. Yeah,
course,
I saw that clip. You got me hook, line, and sinker. I'm thinking, did that really happen? This is crazy.
well, I was so the thing is I made the channel. Oh God. So I've had a couple of different channels and thought about it, right? So I had a bodybuilding channel once that I put up a video or two, and I did a little bit of that when we were waiting on my son to be born, just to give me something to do, because she could have gone into labor at any moment. So I was like, well, I'm not doing any live streams, so I'm gonna just make a bunch of videos with my animals on it. I got like 50 animals, right? And like goats and chickens and whatnot. But I took those videos down now that I'm back into the swing of things. But I'll be honest, after today, I'm probably going to take a few weeks off of interviewing and doing any panels, just because after the baby was born, it was like we went live one day, then we went live with Gnostic Informant the other night. And oh my God, you got to watch anybody watching this. If you watched the Gnostic Informant interview a few days ago, and we won't keep you too long tonight either. That way y'all can get on with your lives. But the other day, I was so dead by about hour 3 that I'm like leaned over this fan over here. My blood sugar's in the ground. I haven't slept much in the last few weeks, and neither has my wife, because the baby's kind of cluster feeding and stuff. And they had so much they wanted to talk about, because right now in the community, we have a battle royale about to happen, sort of, where we have the Gnostics, if you will, or the Babylonians, the alternate theory Christian materials, if you will, up against those that disagree with some of those theories. And so what I was going to do is I was going to ask you, have you ever heard of the theory of Jesus being a eunuch?
No, I don't think I have.
It'll definitely catch you off guard at first. And there's a couple of things that we do that sort of we're not saying that we know. I mean, after all, the guy might have not even actually walked the earth, which is kind of the whole reason for even like Myth Vision and Gnostic to have their channels,
Right,
is to
right, right.
really try to see what's going on, you know? Well, I was writing a book about a Roman soldier meeting Jesus. So I needed to find out what kind of, little mystery rite he might have gone through, this war veteran with PTSD, pretty much me just 2,000 years ago, right? I can at least speak for what that feels like to write a story about a guy like that. I can't tell you what it's like to be Jesus, but I wanted to know what kind of thing he went through. So we've been looking at all the alternate theories, because if we're going to make this, we have friends, Chase the Face. He's a movie director. We have some stuff we're wanting to do in the entertainment side of stuff. With the TV show that we've written, we have a couple of episodes already worked out. We have actors picked out. We have all this stuff ready to go, but he's in Florida.
Oh.
So I wanted Gnostic and Derek, because they're in Florida, to link up with Chase, because if they wanted to be a part of this Gnostic-ish mythology, Key and Peele type of show,
Yeah.
that it would be fun, because we've all done, or not we, but everyone's been doing this format podcasts, this format long form discussions with someone who's controversial, who is either extinguishing a theory that's insane, or they're bringing it up and elaborating on it, and then everybody else can go and pick it apart, based on whatever comes out of their mouth. So there is a guy named Lady Babylon channel who has all of this pornographic drug use sort of interstitched into the Christian roots, right? Well, I'm really mainly interested in just knowing if there was any entheogens or whatever. So we look at the text and we try to find if there was potentially any little leftover breadcrumbs, just alluding to, because we already see in the Bible tons of apothecary. We see spikenard, we see calamus, we see cinnamon, we see all this knowledge of the ancient plants. Let's say ancient, but of entheogenic and non-entheogenic plants and stuff. So I wanted to make this sort of this way of being a Christian, where it's like you don't have to believe that Jesus is divine, but we just think that if there was a guy that was like this, that he might have been, if he was trying to bring back the origin, the roots of Judaism, more of a purist sort of way. Well, this is what they were doing. And we've looked up the archaeological digs, and we got the cannabis, we got the opium, we got the ergot even. And have you ever heard of ergot before? Okay, so this is the only thing we won't keep this too long, because I want to bring you back on for like panel discussion stuff and more of the material. You have a master's degree in this, so like this is really going to be great that we've now brought you on the show, because now when you talk about the Bible, it comes from academia, which is a huge advantage, for getting an opinion, because I don't have anyone else on the show that has your education level in that. So this is great. So let's take a look at, this is my one fun question. And this is kind of the whole trademark of this Witch Doctor Christianity book that I wrote, is looking into whether early Christianity, before there was even names for them, just in time. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Shark. It's my horrible. What's up, man?
Not much. What are you guys doing?
Not much, man. I'm glad you jumped on, because we weren't going to be like super, super long today, just because, wife's doing everything with the baby strapped like a monkey,
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring Tristan on, Tristan Gabriel, Tiger Shark.
What's happening? How are you?
So
Good.
Tristan has a channel where he used to be a Christian, and he used to be a preterist, right?
Yeah, I used to be a full preterist, correct.
And so he has a channel now where he features some of the same faces that we've at least featured on the show, Richard Carrier. And the other day, when me and Marcel were looking for stuff with Richard Carrier in it, I found his channel. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm not going to watch any more videos but the one I watched, but I want to bring you on, see what your personality is like, because we're always looking for more personalities on the show, people that can handle the conversations we have. To tell you a little bit more, Tristan, Tiger Shark has brought a lot of the articles that we're talking about to the show and to the book. So the archaeological digs with the opium and the cannabis, this was from some very old Jewish burial sites, much older. And so my concept was, if Jesus was a purist and he was trying to preserve the origins of the religion, would it be crazy to someone in the 1st century BC or even 1st century AD, since that's kind of the golden years anyway for our dude, the superstar, would it be crazy if some of these theories were brought up back then? You know, like there's this eunuch Jesus one. Then there's this slightly Muhammad-styled pedophilic one. And I'll explain a little more before we dive into the one that I think is the safest for conversation, ergot harvesting. Potentially. Hope, fingers crossed, right? So the concept of Jesus being a eunuch has been around for a while, but we didn't know till we looked into it. Different artists have made clever quips, and the further back you go looking at the artwork, there's some unique features eunuch features sometimes even drawn into Jesus. Now, it's not definitive, but when I was in middle school, I went to a school of the arts, and because I was one of the dumb ones, my particular core was visual arts instead of like theater or creative writing, where all the smart guys were at, right? So I managed to get into this school, and visual arts became the topic, or became my core focus. And they could never show us half of the stuff that existed because of how pornographic it is. The Greek stuff, you know, you got people bending over with giant phalluses, pretending to do this in the artwork. You know, my mom's got a few books on stuff like that, which is, I think, kind of weird to say, but it's true. And so the concept of Jesus being a eunuch is one of them. And then the concept of Jesus having inappropriate relations with younger individuals is another concept that's been around for a really long time. I just didn't know it till I started the channel, trying to find out what different entheogens might be at this scene where the Roman soldier is going to meet Jesus. What's he going to actually do? Is he going to drink a drink? Is he going to be in a tent with a bunch of incense burning, cannabis stalks being burnt on the altar? What is that going to look like? This required me to dig into every freaking Gnostic informant and myth vision video. I had to watch all of it, like, you know, even the Dionysian videos, even any cultural surroundings, right? Because we're thinking, in the words of Jacques Lagoff, or in the spirit of Jacques Lagoff, he's a French medievalist. When he tries to interpret what was going on about a text without using the text, he looks at the anthropology, the archaeology, and the artwork. What was someone in the 1st century drawing Jesus like? Because whatever they're drawing in these pictures, in the catacombs of Priscilla, or the catacombs of here or there or wherever, they're drawing these permanent pictures of Jesus with no beard at 33 years old, right? Interesting. They're drawing pictures of Jesus with a magic wand. The first few hundred years, they're drawing this magic wand, you know? And so we've looked into all these different theories, and the only one I'm going to bring up with you now, that way we don't take too much longer today, and I'll let Tiger Shark talk a little bit more and everything as I pull this up. We're going to go to crossbible.com.
Well, just let you know, I am on a time constraint. I do have to leave in about 5 minutes. I remember we said it would be about an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Let's do this. All right. So we're going to go to Matthew 12. Now, the same scene is in Luke 6. And this isn't a huge, gotcha moment, but just so we can get you out of here. And next time you come on, you can say what you need to now. We'll sign you off. Next time you come on, we'll look at some more of the theories that we've looked at, and we'll show you some of the artwork that shows these different theories. You'll be real surprised some of the stuff that we found. You'll never know what we have coming. So let's go to share. Boom. Share screen. Matthew 12. All right. So Luke 6 has the same passage pretty much. It actually has something added on to it that makes it seem even more so. But what we're trying to find is we're trying to find any hidden things that allude to there being any kind of consumption of anything that might have been psychedelic as part of the practice. So at the time Jesus went through the fields of grain on the Sabbath, his disciples were hungry and began to pick the heads of the grain and to eat them. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "Look, you disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath." He answered, "Haven't you read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God. He and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which is not lawful for them to do, but for the priests only. Or haven't you read that in the law that the priests on the Sabbath duty in the temple desecrate the Sabbath, and yet you are innocent, and yet are innocent? All right, I tell you that something greater than the temple is here." Now, when I read this, I see a guy in a field. Now, this guy can shit out, baskets of bread and fish, by the way. So the act of desperation to go get food seems a little ridiculous because nobody eats grain this way. Nobody takes the stalk of the grain and takes the pieces of wheat and eats like that. It takes a preparation. Now, that would be something that you're not allowed to do on the Sabbath for sure. But then he refers to the consecrated bread. It's been debated that the consecrated bread was simply bread that was infested with ergot. Ergot is just a fungus that grows on wheat and cereal grains, and it always has since the beginning of time. This particular ergot, this fungus, which is actually on the thumbnail of this live stream thumbnail, it's actually at the bottom corner. You'll see it right underneath your picture. It looks like a little hook, right? Like this. You see that? Here we go. Looks like this. It grows on the end of the grain. Nothing crazy, right? But that's where they find lysergic acid dihydramine. Lysergic acid is LSD. So all I'm saying is there's a small little breadcrumb that made it to 2 revisions of Mark first, then Matthew, then Luke. I'm still an amateur, don't know anything. But we find a scene where not only is he doing something where he would have had to eat around the fungus on the end of it, he can shit out bread and fish. He doesn't have to have this, oh my God, like some house guest Big Mac scene. He doesn't have to do that. But if he's teaching people the purest way of living with one in the Holy Spirit, well, I'm just saying, from my experiences with entheogens, the Holy Spirit would be a perfect way to describe how you feel on entheogens. And is this scene trying to say that something that was very commonly known at the time, everyone knows what the hell that thing was growing on those cereal grains. There was even a symptom that later in life that they called St. Anthony's fire. My mother, the anthropology major, she did a project on ergot being used during childbirth. This has been around and well known about until the 21st century. So when you ask a Christian about this, they laugh in your face and give you the tree of knowledge statement, which of course. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean it's different. I've never heard of this before. It's different. I mean, what can you say? I mean, I'd be interested to see, the scholastic sources, the academic sources that you mentioned, but hey, as being a skeptic of religion, hey, anything's possible, but that's interesting. I'm interested to to hear more from it.
And that's all I wanted to do today, guys. Thank you so much. This has been a great hour and 10 minutes with Tristan Gabriel. We're going to cut our guy free, and then me and Tiger Shark are going to finish out the episode, and then we'll sign off. But man, it was great to see you, dude. Anything you want to say to the crowd before you roll?
Yes, hey, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully we said something that was beneficial, and you could take something away. You're more than welcome to view the content on my channel. If you would like to have a debate with somebody, or maybe you'd like for me to host a debate, or even challenge myself, just shoot me an email. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm looking forward to hearing more from what you were saying, and I can't wait to come back on.
Dude, it was great having you, bro, for real. And real quick, guys, 21st Century Mind at Tristan G21. Go check him out. And just for your situational awareness, he's had Myth Vision on his show already, and vice versa. So I think this channel is going to blow up. I think it's going to be popular. And I think your personality is great for this type of material. But dude, I can't thank you enough, man.
Thank you, man.
See you later, bro.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to joining with you again. It's nice
Hell
meeting
yeah.
you too. So thank you. Nice meeting both you guys. Thank you so
Dude,
much.
I appreciate it.
Peace, man.
Yeah, that was 21st Century Mind, guys. So go check him out. All right, bro. I got you. At least for a little bit. What's going on, dude?
I'm just here to plug that next Tower Minerva book. I'm sure Mandy will, let us all know about it. But some of us are working on pieces for that. I got a pretty good piece there. I know Amanda Bearcat has a good one too. So yeah, everybody go check that out. I'm not gonna I don't want to give all of it away. I think we should wait for the book. But I have a lot of sources in there, not shared with so many people, but it's like a 2nd century CE source. And I guess this is the one that I can talk about because this is not in the book. It was actually going back to Seaman and what he brought up with the, Gnostic and all that before they had their arguments.
Mhm.
But I was, not happy that they didn't bring this up. But if we want to look at the sex rights, right? Everybody's talking about the sex rights. Let's just avoid the semen and all that other stuff. Pleione Arabica, and I gotta go actually in about 30 seconds, Witch Doctor. But if you look up that particular compound, which was in that vase at Bess, they've actually done a lot of scientific studies on that particular psychoactive, and it has caused, at least in Worcester rats, definitely increased in frequency in sex versus placebo groups. So there are compounds that they're adding to these things. Now, I have a bigger piece on that's going to be in that book, right, that I don't want to get into today. But it also has Christian sources. One of the popes actually was endorsing not that particular compound, but the one that I'm going to be talking about in the book. And then also 2nd CE Greek source, proto-scientific source, that talks about this compound being utilized in that fashion. So yeah, I guess once it comes out, maybe we can divulge some of that stuff and the sources and things. But it's everywhere. I mean, I know Nasik just talked yesterday about Exodus and the Reg Veda yesterday, but it's all in the Bhagavad Gita and all that stuff. It's in there as well.
I'm glad you brought it up. We need to cover more.
Yeah, we can cover more of that. Yeah, I do got it wrong, but yeah.
Hell yeah!
Just here to plug the book, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care. Minerva. Which volume is it?
I think it's gonna be. I don't know. Mandy's in the chat. He should be able to answer it for us.
Hell yeah! Cool. Well, either way, bro, I'll let you go so you can do your thing.
All right.
Peace. All right, guys. So that's gonna be it for today. Thank you so much. Thank you to Tristan Gabriel for jumping on. I made a bunch of plans to have a few people on like a month ago, and we're just now starting to knock them out of the way. And we had a couple of impromptu live streams with Gnostic, or y'all have to watch that Gnostic interview. By the last 30 minutes, I'm in such rough shape that you can see on my face, I'm like leaning over a fan trying to stay cool because I'm so tired. Oh my God. I told him the next day, I was like, bro, I'm so sorry. I had to peace out before the whole thing was over. I haven't slept a lot and I've been getting up real early. So he understood. But I was like, this is an even funnier story than the one I made up almost. But anyway, guys, we'll catch you next time. Yeah, go ahead, start it over and watch from the beginning. You can get to know Tristan a little bit better, but I'll see y'all soon.